Hi everyone, really nice to see you all today. Thanks for the introduction. I really wanted to take this time to share with you some of my recent mullings that have been swimming around in my mind lately, a bit of working through my conscious stream of thoughts, and thought it was quite fitting for today's topic of borderless challenges. So as Martin said, by profession I'm a senior user researcher. I've been at Government Digital Service, or more commonly known as GDS, for 3 and a bit years now. And at the beginning of this year, I joined a new team at GDS, which is called the Emerging Technologies team. I can say I know a lot about user research, but I can't say that I know a lot about emerging technologies. And so with that, I enrolled myself back at uni into a course known as the Management of Emerging Technologies. It gives a nice high-level understanding of topics like information of things, AI, blockchain, etc., and has been this interesting intersection between the academic theory and the practicalities of everyday work, which I haven't experienced in such parallel before, so that's been quite interesting. But in week 4, we were talking about digital transformation, and in particular, we're prescribed a reading which was called The New Elements of Digital Transformation. In this article, it highlights the important considerations that any organization should try to keep in mind if they're undertaking some sort of digital transformation. Many of these elements you can see on this nifty diagram here. It highlights things like customer experience, employee experience, business operations and such. But one thing it highlighted really, really importantly was the vitalness of having both staff capability and good leadership to undertake any kind of transformation in a meaningful way. Now, this is where it got a little bit tricky for me. I was reading it, I was nodding along, yep, all makes sense to me. Go to class and we start discussing the paper, and so many people were very opposed to what was being said in this article. And that I was quite taken aback by that, because why was I thinking so differently to the others in the class? And I was trying to understand why I was nodding along so much in agreement with it. So this is where my mullings really begin today. Prior to joining the Emerging Technologies team, I spent 3 years in an international team at GDS, where we would work with different governments or countries around the world, helping them with their digital transformation journeys. That looked like a variety of things. It could be service design, it could be coaching on user-centered practices, helping write digital transformation strategies, things along this manner. And we worked along many countries along Southeast Asia, bits of Europe, bits of Caribbean, Middle East. And you know what? The thing that came up so much, no matter what government we worked with or whose processes we were exposed to, was the need for having easy access, a good sense of appropriate capability to deliver the changes that were recommended or wanting to be put forward in the transformation, but also the appropriate leadership that helped enable those changes to take place. For example, this is a roadmap we created for one of the strategies, digital transformation strategies we were working with for one government, and the detail doesn't really matter. It's more the topics on the left of the screen that you can see there. The ones in blue were largely to do with leadership. Leadership in the way of giving an agency the remit to create or do something, but also having the leadership to encourage others to follow what this organization is doing. And also leadership to give an organization a mandate to carry out a piece of work, no matter what pushback or apprehension they might be facing from other directions, which can be quite hard for someone doing something quite different. The yellow ones you can see there are a lot to do with capability. In regards to recruiting the right talent with the right skills, enabling staff to have easy access to good learning and development opportunities, and having cohesive performance management processes so people can develop skills as they're going along in their career as well. So perhaps I'm using different words, or perhaps I'm drilling down into more specific details about capability or leadership, but these were two prevailing themes that I frequently saw as well as needed to help governments undergo their digital transformation journeys, irrespective of, say, digital maturity or connectivity. It kind of reinstills this idea that you might have heard before, that digital transformation isn't all about technology. More often than not, it's about the culture, the processes, and the people. Now, I'm definitely not saying skip the whole process and just focus on leadership or capability. You want to know what's really going on behind the scenes so that you can understand really what's at the heart of the problem or what's at the heart of things that needing to be changed. And that's where the user-centered design, and in my case, user research, really comes into play. And what do I mean by that? Well, talk to as many people as you can from absolutely every angle. Talking to the leadership teams, talking to the delivery staff, talking to the end users of the product or service you're delivering, and in most cases that'll be the public. And interview them, observe them, understand their processes, their gaps, their procedures, their tools, their workarounds, their policies, their working relationships, their stakeholders, their reporting structures, their ideas for the future, their priorities, motivations, inhibitors, opportunities, their assumptions, their biases, basically what's working well for them and what's not. And you will come out with a lot of information, definitely know it, but as you work through it, you might see common themes, and those themes that I've seen quite frequently have been on the sides of the customer experience, employee experience, the business operations, the leadership, and the capability. How you tackle these and the approach will very much depend on your unique circumstances. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about unique circumstances. Your potential solutions shouldn't ignore your individual context. With every country or government we worked alongside, it was important to adapt to their needs and their approaches. Cookie cutter methods was just not going to work for any long-term change to take place. So some things to consider, for example, the hierarchy models that you're working within. Some places might have a flat structure, some places have quite distinct layers of hierarchy. Do workers feel empowered and to share their ideas and decisions, or is there a culture that have to go through the bosses? And how does this impact the ways of working that you're within? Also, how long have people been working in their roles for? In some places, it's quite normal to do 20, 30 years in one role and not see much change. In other places, there's a culture of changing your role within 2 to 3 years. So how does that impact people's appetite for change and learning new skills as things move on and new capabilities? What is the size of the environment you're working within? I know there's been some places I've worked in where the population has been much smaller than what I'm used to, and you would just call up the IT person to ask for help directly because you know everyone around. But that's just not feasible in other places, and then maybe a ticketing process is in place. So how does that impact how you adopt new processes? Also, what is the tone of language that works best in your setup? Some places it can be more relaxed and playful, and that works in your favor. In other places it's quite authoritative or factual, and that gives you more credibility. So how will that also affect the value that's given to your work and your materials that you're putting out there? Last but not least is your environmental factors. Outside cities, sometimes connectivity is not always there, but besides that, a lot of places also experience maybe natural disasters like hurricanes or floods, and that impacts connectivity. Or summers can be so scorching hot that it's just not safe to ask people to wait outside in the heat to get face-to-face service. So how does that impact the user's overall journey with what you're creating? They're just some factors to name a few. I know it's a lot of information, right? So many things to think about, and where do you begin? And that's where I think bringing in what I'd like to think of your superhero user-centered design team to come in. Being a mix of your user researchers, content designers, service designers, interaction designers. I know it's not always possible to have everyone there right at the beginning if you're starting out in this way of working for the first time, but working towards having this contingent of heroes, they will consider the gaps, the problem spaces, the opportunities, and the context, so they can propose really usable, viable, and feasible solutions that will have longevity in a successful transformation. Now, just to wrap it, I feel I need to bring it all back to what started these mullings in the first place, was this article. And I think what I've come out on the other side thinking, what I'm saying is, through what I've seen in my work so far, is to enable digital transformation projects, a lot of the time the changes that happen effectively is largely because easy access to the capability, but really the leadership who are in your favor saying, yep, you've got the baton, go ahead, I'll support you. The changes themselves are likely to span across different realms of customer experience, employee experience, businesses, and processes. But knowing what those changes are should involve some in-depth user research and work alongside a design team who are masters at helping develop effective solutions for these problems. So yes, I think I'm still nodding along. I understand not everyone will necessarily have thought the same way as me, but I understand my thought process is a bit more. Thank you for allowing me to walk through that with you. I hope that you've had some food for thought from it, or some resonance that you've seen in your own work. Thank you.